I think we can go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Barb Champ. I am one of the co-chairs of Art and Bloom for 2024. And I believe in here is my co-chair, Diane Morrison. If she's in here, wave, but she's been a fabulous co-chair, and I want to acknowledge that. So today, it's an honor to stand before you because we are celebrating the 40th year anniversary of Art and Bloom. That is a huge milestone. So it's great that you can be here today to celebrate with us. As you know, we are starting 4 days of a fun-filled, festive, beautiful event with lots of flowers, lots of floral interpretations, and art. Art is a big part of this. Mia is all about art. And it's so wonderful that we can have talented pedestal floral artists and commercial floral artists that interpret our artwork. We also have other events that the Friends of the Institute are sponsoring. Those are listed on the screen next to me. But I really want to get to what's happening today. And we are so delighted to have you hear from Christi Belcourt, the very, as I say, talented and gifted artist of It's a Delicate Balance. And that was our signature piece this year for Art and Bloom. And as many of you Art and Bloomers know, we always have a signature piece. And I've shared this story a couple of times, but yesterday when I met Christi, I said, it's so nice to have a living artist with us, you know? And she's trying to stay that way during her visit. So let me say a few words about Christi before I bring her to the stage. Christi is a Métis visual artist, author, community organizer, environmentalist, social justice advocate, and avid land-based arts and language learner. She comes here from Lac Saint Anne. It's a province of Alberta, so we are so thrilled to have her here when she's coming from such a distance. She is a recipient of several awards of note, including a Premier's Award in the Arts, a Governor General's Award for Innovation, and an honorary doctorates from both Algoma University and Wilfrid Laurier University. She is most well known for her large floral landscapes that emulate Métis beadwork. Her paintings can be found within many public and permanent collections across North America, with the Gabriel Dumont Institute holding the largest collection of her work in the world, including all of her portraits. Christi has also organized several large national community-based projects of note, including Walking with Our Sisters, the Willisville Mountain Project, and various works done with Onaman collectives. She donates much of her time and income to supporting Indigenous language and revitalization. So we are thrilled to have Christi here today, and I ask you all to give her a warm welcome as she comes up to the stage.
Well, hello. What a great way to start the day coming here. Thank you so much to the Friends of Mia for hosting this event, to Mia itself. I wish you much success with your Art and Bloom events. And, thank you, the selection committee who chose It's a Delicate Balance to be the piece that some of the floral artists interpret for this year's signature piece for this year's Art and Bloom. It's really an honor, and it's kind of perfect because there's nothing I love more than flowers and things like that. So I think it's like it just works out really well, and I am glad to be a living artist. I'm happy to be alive, that's for sure. So I was asked to speak about my arts practice, to share some of my art, and I have like notes, but I don't really rehearse, and I don't really know what I'm going to say. So you might get a lot of serious ranting, or you might just get some pretty words. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's go down this journey together. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to start off with a quote by Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Mr. Rogers. He says, "Do you ever wonder things? Do you ever see a cat's eye in the dark and wonder what they were? Did you ever grow anything in a flower garden? Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind? It's good to be curious about things." And that's pretty much, that sums up my life. I am curious. I'm curious about absolutely everything. I'm curious about why we're even alive. I'm curious about what life even is. And I just want to share this slide because it's just, I love it so much. It's a monarch caterpillar on milkweeds. On a milkweed, did you know that monarchs um, will only lay their eggs on milkweeds? And yeah, I know a lot of you probably know that. but some might not. So for the people who don't, so that they will only lay their eggs on milkweeds, and because the milkweed itself is toxic to birds, so as the caterpillar eats, it becomes toxic to birds, and over time they have learned to leave each other alone, pretty much. And so the monarch is, needs the milkweed to survive. And I don't think the milkweed needs the monarch, but the monarch needs the milkweed. And milkweeds, once you start to find out more about them, you start to see, okay, well, their flowers are very fragrant. They're beautiful. They're a beautiful plant. They are not a weed. I'm kind of offended that they're called weeds. And like you see wasps and bees and all sorts of other butterflies, swallowtails, and everything really enjoys milkweed. So I guess this is my call to you to go out and save those pods when you see them, and then just spread them all over your neighborhood. And I'm sure your neighbors will just love you for it. So my curiosity has my nose in plants. On the, is that the left? The right, the left. On the left is a horsetail spore when they're, and on the right, of course, is a leopard frog that I came across when I was out walking. And then on the right hand bottom is the pond lily. When you start to really look at the macro version of plants, it brings you into it unsettles you in the sense of you really don't understand life. You're like, what is this? It's like looking at some of the things in the bottom of the ocean, or looking at all the stars of the Milky Way, and you really wonder, what is this? What does it all mean? Where do we come from? What is it? And it sends you into exploration and curiosity. Like the pond lily, for example, it's a plant that I dreamt about. I had a really powerful dream about it, so it shows up in my art quite a bit. But when you peel away the yellow petals, you look on the inside, and this is the seed pod essentially. And like all fruits and all flowers, produce that's the seed of the next generation. So when you see this, and then you can apparently dry the little seeds out and make popcorn. I tried, but I failed miserably at it. And it's not like popcorn, like where you just take one cob and you can make a whole pot. Like you literally have to dive in the swamps for a really long time to save enough of these to make even a handful. So that's a no for me. But they're really wonderful, magical, and I think that's based on the dreams is why they show up in my art so much. So the pond lily is it's a delicate balance that's here at the Mia, but it's also in several of my paintings, and you'll see it every once in a while pop up. Dreams are incredibly important. I believe that dreams are messages, sometimes from the spirit world, from your ancestors, from the animals themselves, from whatever you're dreaming about. They come as teachers, and it's almost like, for me, my mind is going 100 miles a minute all the time. And maybe the only time I can shut up long enough for them to get a word in edgewise is when I'm sleeping, because I've heard that like the spirit world won't interrupt you when you're thinking. So maybe that's why, every once in a while you'll get a powerful dream. Sometimes it's not a spirit dream though. Sometimes it's just, like did any of you ever see like A Christmas Carol from like 58 or 51 with Alistair Sim? And the ghost of his business partner Marley has come to visit him, and he says, "Is that you, Marley, or are you just a bit of undigested beef, or a dollop of mustard?" So sometimes it really is just the banana, but you know. So, and sturgeon is. Oh, I wanted to tell you about this sturgeon. This is called What the Sturgeon Told Me, and it was based on a dream. And I'll spare you the details of the dream, but essentially the sturgeon said, "I miss the frogs." So when I woke up, I thought, I had no connection to sturgeon before that. I didn't, I'm not sturgeon clan. I didn't know that I had a connection to sturgeon. But sturgeon, for whatever reason, she wanted to reach out to me and let me know this. So then, of course, I woke up full of curiosity, and I went over to Kokum Google, which is Grandma Google, and I asked her, "What what is this? What is this relationship between the sturgeon and the frogs?" And I found out lots of very interesting things, like the sturgeon it has to be 25 years old before she's able to spawn. That's a big fish that can grow, 10, 12 feet long. I learned that um, the sturgeon will return to their places to spawn, just like the salmon do. But what we've done as human beings is we've blocked all the river systems with hydroelectric dams, and of course the fish ladders are not big enough for the sturgeon to get back to spawn where they are supposed to spawn. When you look at the map of Lake Michigan, you look all around and you start to look at where the sturgeon were and where they are today compared to where they were 150 years ago. They were everywhere on all the little tributaries, the rivers, and now they are in 2 or 3 places only. We are looking at the severe decline of sturgeon all over the world. Part of it too is because people catch sturgeon to sell the eggs, the caviar, what they call caviar, what I call babies, or potential babies, for $150 an ounce, and they won't lay their eggs in any place that is not clean. So anywhere that's been disturbed through development, poison, toxicity, whatever, they won't lay their eggs in that water. And so their decline is entirely due to our species, entirely. What I learned too is that the Menominee people have a belief, and I'm sure I'm not Menominee, so I don't know, but what I did read is that they have a belief that the sturgeon will wait for the frogs to sing before they will come home to spawn. And that got me thinking that the sturgeon and the frogs have a relationship that is not any of our business. It's thousands and thousands of years old. Their relationship is a sacred relationship that goes back so long that is not predator prey. We do such a disservice to kids in school when we teach them this predator prey relationship and don't explore the fact that there are actual spiritual and friendship relationships between animals that really don't have anything to do with us. So this is that's what that dream is about. And then of course you saw this before, but this is called Every Prayer a Dot for the Saskatchewan Rivers. The Saskatchewan rivers, both north and south, are going through a really hard time. One is the north has had several leaks in it from oil and gas industry, and the south is drying up because the farms are polluting it and then pulling all the water out of it for their farmlands. So we're looking at endangered rivers as well as endangered species, and so the sturgeon and the frogs are a recurring theme in my work. And then there's a detailed shot of this one. And like it's a delicate balance. The frogs are in there swimming too. And but I wanted to talk about the origins of how I started painting the way that I paint, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. It came from this pair of mucklucks. This pair of mucklucks was given to me by my ex-husband's aunt, who they were too big for me, so I hung them on the wall. And then I've been painting all my life, or not all my life, but drawing or painting or whatever. And I just looked at them and I said, "Oh, I should just paint that." Paint that beadwork. Sounds so easy. And then that took me onto like a 30-year exploration of learning about the plants and learning about Métis beadwork. So my people are Métis people. Um, we come from all over the Western Prairies. My people come from a community called Manteau-Zauguigan, which means Spirit Lake, but the English/French name is Lac Saint Anne. And that's in Alberta. The picture of me there that's in Jasper, which is not far. It's part of our traditional territory too. But we're not mountain people. We're more rolling hills prairie people, not really flat prairie people. And I have had my nose in the plants and in beadwork now for 35 years. I like to go and zoom in at the macro level in order to understand the larger, bigger picture, or try to understand, of our universe. I thought that I would just share some pictures of Métis beadwork with you so you can be familiar and know where aesthetically where my tradition of beadwork comes from, where my tradition of painting comes from, because I didn't invent invent these things on my own. We have an artistic legacy that was handed down through generations of beadworkers and artists who worked in beads and quills and hides and painting on rawhide with natural pigments, embroidery thread, whatever was at hand. And most of the work always reflected the natural world in some way, and the knowledge of medicines and how to live on this earth and what to do. Everyone carried a certain amount of medicinal knowledge, and then there was other people who specialized in that knowledge in a little bit deeper, more spiritual way. You can see that part of what marks Métis beadwork, or the classic style of Métis beadwork, is this heavy use of color that pop on black trade cloth, sometimes with white stems, or sometimes with gold stems or yellow stems, sometimes with blue. Mostly white, though. You see a lot of those white. The little hairs on the stems are that comes from knowledge of the plants. When you start looking really closely, you see a lot of hairs. The challenge of what beadworkers had to do was to work with limited palettes. So when you start to count the colors, you see like, okay, maybe they had access to about 14, 16. I think the most I've ever seen is like 27 colors. It sounds like a lot, but it isn't when you're trying to put things together and then keep things from, you don't want a whole big cluster of yellow as opposed to a big cluster of, red. So you have to balance things out. And it's not really mathematical, but there is some thought into it, right? And we adorned everything. We just everything, and especially children, who are the center of our circle. Children are our future. They're the ones that the whole community raised. And so of course, when a baby was coming, we would adorn the moss bags. There's an example of a man's vest. This is embroidery done in silk embroidery thread, and a dog blanket. Now the blanket is not for the dog to lay on; it's for the dog to wear in the cold when they're pulling a sled or whatnot. And you can see the symmetry that's in there, and so you can see how dense it is. So this is the tradition that I come from. So it's no surprise that my paintings end up being dense and filled to the brim with color. And I really don't know how not to fill up every single spot. Like you can see where the cedar is and the canvas ends there, where the stars end. That's the size of the canvas. The black on the edges is just the slide background. So it's not like I left any empty space, because I just can't. It's like I don't know, OCD a little bit. So this is called the night shift, and it's about nighttime pollinators and the importance of nighttime pollinators. So I'll just say this so I don't forget to say it. Turn your lights off outside at night, please. Turn all your lights off. I wanted to just talk about these pollinators because they thrill me. The Luna moth. The Luna moth uh, will eat it from a little tiny round seed, and it'll eat, 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 eat until it turns the size of my finger. It's green until it's ready to go into its cocoon, and then I'm sure I'm not using the right terms, but that's fine. You know what I mean. And the cocoon, and then it'll turn like a pink, like a dusty rose pink, and then it'll go into its cocoon. And then over the course of the warmer season, there'll be about five different generations that are born. And then on the last one, it goes into, it eats, turns pink, makes a cocoon underneath the leaves, and then waits there all winter long, under piles and piles of snow, under all of that weight, so that in the springtime, it can emerge with its wings, find its mate, and the cycle begins again. And the thing that's fascinating, that just blows my mind about it, is that they are born without mouths. No mouths. So they're born and they don't ever eat again. For 5 days is all they survive. And they have to, within that time, find their mate and lay the eggs and and start the cycle again. And they are the most purest, their bodies are the most fluffiest, purest white when you start to zoom in and look. Like I think only snow can rival that the pureness of the white that they are. And then it's the same with the rosy maple moth, which you see on the cedar. And then I put the fireflies in here in the first time in any of my paintings, and I'm not sure I'll put them in again. But the reason why is because the fireflies, there's a place in, like, I think North Carolina and other places, not too many places where this particular species of fireflies, or this particular kind, is they will, you know, when you see fireflies and one goes and one goes and one goes like this, and then all of a sudden they're going like this, and then it gets like this, and then they all sink at the same time. And there's a theory that the reason why they're all sinking at the same time is because the females will wait for the males to get in sync before they will mate with them. I know you know where I'm going with this. We need to stop the military industrial complex that is being funded and supported with billions and billions of our dollars, mostly run by men. The wars across the globe and the violence are mostly coming from men. And wouldn't it be amazing if we just synced up as women and just said no? So, when you see the fireflies, think about unity. And think about what we can do to change this world for a better place for the future and coming generations. This is the biggest painting that I've done. It's 9 feet by 12 feet. Yeah, 12 feet wide by 9 feet. It's called My Heart is Beautiful. It was the biggest wall that I had in my house, and then I moved and divorced my husband. He's still a great guy. We still get along really well. But but then I had to move to a smaller place, so the paintings got smaller because it's all I could fit on my wall. But this is called, of course, it's a delicate balance. It's the one that is here. And I just want to thank Meg and Andy Ubel for purchasing this work for Mia. This has been, you know, my pleasure and honor to be able to be commissioned to do this piece specifically for here. A lot of research went into this about endangered species, species at risk in this region and across the same sort of latitude where we share a lot of the same ecosystems. Even into where I live too, there's a lot of species that we share and that are also endangered. I thought that I would just quickly go over a little bit of the process. So this is not, it's a delicate balance. This one is water song, but the process is the same. I draw out the canvas, I staple the canvas to the wall, and then I draw directly to the canvas. I don't make sketches because it's just a matter of pattern making, I suppose. So I start to do it in front of my eyes, and then once I get one half done, Then I trace it over, then I flip the paper, trace it on the other side. I used to measure with a ruler and try and eyeball, and it never turned out. So this is a more accurate way to get that nice, perfect symmetry that I'm looking for. With It's a Delicate Balance, I began painting with the on the bottom half. Now I don't normally do that. I normally pop all over the canvas doing both sides. Like I'll do the blue that's on this side with the blue that's on that side, just so that it's easier because I have lot like you saw the little paint cans at the beginning. There's like hundreds, so I want to make sure that I'm using the same colors and then so I started to do the bottom though because I was just so challenged by the water that's in the center, the how I was going to do that, and I was excited by it. And when I get challenged, I get excited, and then I kind of obsess about it, and I want to keep going. So that's what I did. I just started doing all the bottom first, and then you can see that I threw a pattern on the top, and I'm like trying to figure out. I can see from this picture that I had drawn out some of the top, like I could see the milkweed there and some of the flowers, but some parts were not quite thought through yet. So then after I was done the bottom, I started moving to the top to paint. Depending on how tall the ceiling is, I'm up on a ladder or on a stool, or I'm sitting down, or rarely. Not nowadays. I can't really sit on the floor for that long like I used to be able to. So I try not to like get it down too low because then it gets really uncomfortable. But this is it sort of coming along as it moved along, and then this is it. Yeah, when it was done. So my space is that I was painting in is my living room. It's like 10 feet by 20 feet long. That's the biggest wall that I have in the house, or used to. But I just finished renovating my garage, and now it's an actual studio. The ceilings are 9 feet high, so I'll be able to get that extra foot in. Not as high as I wanted to go, but the city wouldn't let me tear the roof off and build a whole bigger thing. So that will either wait till later, or I'll just have to be satisfied with what I have, which I am. This is just some details from the paintings. Sundews, the red ones, the little white dots that are around those sundews are representative of the liquid that the sundew produces, which is sticky because it's a carnivorous plant. It's one of the there's not many in this region that are carnivores, but this is one of them. And when the insects land on those little things, they stick to them, and then the sundew closes and digests the insects. Again, with dreams that come into my view when I'm sleeping, the skunk cabbage that's there on the right above the mushrooms, that was in a dream. So every once in a while you'll see that show up. Sometimes I don't know why they're in there, but I just honor them. Like I'm like, oh, okay, the skunk cabbage wants to be in my dream, wants to be in my painting. Why not? So I throw them in and then hope that I'll find out more later, which is the case. Like with the pond lily, I didn't know why. It was a very powerful dream that I had. It showed in the dream I was shown the root. I had never picked a pond lily root in my entire life. I didn't know anything about them. And then 20 years later, I'm out with an elder, and she's like, I need this medicine. Can you dive in this swamp for me and get it? And I'm like, absolutely, I can. I want to. So I go and do it. And I did it for another friend of mine too. He's like, I need some of this medicine. Can you go get me some? He goes, it's really easy. You just take a pitchfork and you just pop it up and they float. And I'm like, sounds perfect. So I go in there and yeah, no, they don't pop up. You have to reach down. You have to have a knife in one hand, and you got to reach down, and you got to keep your mouth above the water level as you're blindly stirring up the dirt and cutting the roots that are all attached to the bottom. And then you got to slice them all, and they're like this big with like 100 roots. So you're slicing all those roots off at the bottom, the ones that tether it to the bottom of the mud. And then, then they'll float. Yeah, so I came out of there just coated with mud, going, I'm glad he didn't tell me the truth at first, because. And this is a pitcher plant. It is also another carnivorous plant, and it is a medicine that is used for women's medicine. and birthing and things like that. And so you learn these things as you go. The more you dive into it, the more you find out. You kind of get obsessed with something. You look at the macro of it. You're like, how on earth did this thing grow itself? And I talk to the plants all the time. I believe they can hear me. I believe that they can communicate with us. I believe that medicine people that are gifted in that area, I'm not, but medicine people that are gifted can hear what the plants have to say, and they will tell people what they're good for. And this is how our people have always believed and respected the relationship that we've had with plants. We have a lot in Indigenous artwork, you'll see a lot of animals depicted, but you'll always see plants in there too. And I think that the relationship that we have with plants, it's not a hierarchy. Some people are just really good with plants and some people are really good with animals. I just want to show you the milkweed here because this is probably, it might, right now, my favorites shift, but in the painting, it's a delicate balance. That's my favorite. Just that little part, just where the seeds are in the pod and when that little line of white goes like this, it's just something about it that I just love that little curve. So yeah, and then the one on the right is a lavender bladderwort. I believe that it's endangered. This is depicting a Henslow's sparrow and a king rail, also both endangered species. I provided a list of all of the species that are in the painting, It's a Delicate Balance, to the Mia. And I don't know where they have it listed, but I know that the guides have them and they explain the painting to people that come through. And if you want to know more, please reach out to them. I wanted to just talk about water. Let's see, what time am I here? Okay, we're still good. We're good. Like my paintings, I pack slides into my presentations. So I hope I'm not going too fast, but we'll just plow through, I suppose. As long as my throat keeps up, because I'm just blabbing up here. But okay, so I wanted to show you a detailed shot of the water in It's a Delicate Balance. In a lot of my paintings, water will be depicted, and that's because water is life. Water holds life. Water is what makes us who we are, and water is sacred. It's alive itself. I believe that it deserves to have the same rights as we do, and it deserves to be protected as a life giver for every generation of every species to come. I've been painting water for many years, almost as long as I've been painting plants. This one's from 2007. It's called View from the Canoe. And this one is called Offerings to Save the World. I wanted to talk about this for just a minute about offerings, and just make sure that I got what I need to do the next one here. Yeah. So offerings, for those who don't know or aren't familiar with the term of offerings, how would I describe it? If I was going to go and see a medicine person and I wasn't well, and by medicine person I mean a traditional Indigenous person that carries the knowledge of medicine and ceremonies, and they help to heal people. And they are doctors the same way a medical doctor would be a doctor, or a Chinese medicine doctor would do acupuncture. Same doctor in terms of their knowledge and their wisdom. If I were to go and see them, I would have to bring offerings with me. Offerings might be, I might bring a blanket, I might bring some tobacco, I might bring some money, I might bring some moccasins, I might bring something I made, something. It would be something of value to me that I didn't just run to Walmart and buy, something good, because I'm asking for life. I'm asking for healing. And what does that mean to me? What if I brought, and it was for my mom or my daughter or something? What would you be willing to give up to make them well? A lot. So this is what the concept of offerings are. Offerings are the thing that you give. And I think in this capitalist society that we live in, it's hard to wrestle that away, to unravel that, from the idea of payment. And offerings are not payment. Offerings are what the spirit world recognizes that you are willing to give to keep things in balance, to give, to receive, to give, to receive. And it's instead of just wishing, just I hope that they're well. Please make them well. You are offering something of yourself that takes effort to offer, and the spirit world recognizes that the minute it leaves your hand. Now, what that medicine person does with that doesn't matter. It's none of our business. They could spend it, they could give it away, they could burn it. It doesn't matter, because it isn't the fact that they got anything. That medicine person is just a facilitator between the spirit world and the healing that needs to be done and the person receiving the healing. So this is called Offerings to Save the World, because I'm wondering what I can give and what can we all give in terms of offerings to save this planet and to do the things that we need to do so that people can continue for the many generations to come. So that's what this painting is about. And here's another concept of offerings where women are standing in the water. We're giving our water bundles, which is something that we do every year. And this one is called Prayers and Offerings for Gnebik Zibing. Gnebik Zibing means a serpent river in Anishinaabe. I'm not Anishinaabe, I'm Métis, but I live in Anishinaabe territory, and I'm trying to learn Anishinaabe language as well as my own language, which is Cree. So anyway, in 1957, the government of Canada gave a mining company named Nevada Mines a 99-year lease. Just to give you an idea of Serpent River. Serpent River is a 90-kilometer river that runs. If you were to drive to the head of the river, it'd be about 20 miles from the shore of Lake Huron. So north of the shore of Lake Huron, a 90-mile river that runs like this to the lake. Serpent River is also Serpent River First Nation. So it's a reserve, or I guess here we say reservations. So it's a reserve. And so the people of Serpent River, that is their territory. And they live on Serpent River First Nation, but also within the territory of their territory. In around 1840 something, uranium was discovered in that region that was north of there. And by 1850, they signed a treaty with the people. 1957, 1940, they built a road and built a town called Elliott Lake to open up uranium mines so that they could supply the nuclear bombs. In 1957, the government of Canada gave Noranda Mines a 99-year lease on their reserve to build an acid plant. And the plant there's people still alive that talk about how hanging clothes on the line caused holes in their clothing. People got really sick with health issues. The 99-year lease did not last because the plant closed. It was so toxic that the plant closed in 1963. 1968, the government of Canada authorized the army to do a training exercise to blow up the acid plant, and it spread the toxic waste all over the reserve, contaminating the water. 1988, the government of Canada finally authorizes the cleanup. It hauled away 9,000 truckloads of toxic waste of the soil to the Spanish town dump, which was only 5 minutes away, right on the water, where it leached and got buried on the shores of Lake Huron. In 1993, power failures caused 200 million tons of uranium tailings to spill into the head of the Serpent River that ran 90 kilometers south through the reserve onto the shore, right into Lake Huron. It killed everything in the river. And it is now still, to this day, the #1 contributor of radioactivity to Lake Huron. So that's what this painting is about. And when you start to learn more about the wonders of the natural world, and you learn more about what we're doing and what we have done or what people have done. I think that's why people say that I'm an activist. I don't like that word because that sort of pigeonholes you and people want to put you down for it. But I mean, you just become, you have to do something. You've got to say something, you got to do something. You know, you just can't sit and, I don't know, complain to the air about it. You have to join forces with people and do something about it. So that's what me and Isaac Murdoch did. We formed the Ottoman Collective with a friend of mine, Aaron Consmo. And we went out to Standing Rock. David Solnit out there taught us how to do some banners. Then that's all we needed. We just need someone to show us what to do. So we started making banners and sending them all over. Some of them you may have seen. Yes, and I believe rivers do belong to the salmon. This banners, we made about maybe 20,000 of them over the course of a couple of years, and we sent them all over for free to different water actions everywhere. This one is San Francisco on the left, and that's in Colorado with Wilming on the right. He invited us there. This was here. You hear Cliff? Oh, right on. Good for you. Hey, Cliff. And this was with Doreen Day here in Minneapolis. We did an art build about the water here. And this is a piece that's called, I see that I have about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to just try my best to get through the rest. This is a piece called So Much Depends Upon Who Holds the Shovel. It's sort of a play on the poem, I think William Carlos is his name, who wrote So Much Depends Upon the Red Wheelbarrow. So this is, you know, as I was saying before, we have to look at the power that we're handing over, our power as the people, that we are handing over to people who have sold their souls and the souls of the country to corporate interests. And it depends on who holds the shovel. Are you going to plant a garden or are you going to destroy? And I think we need to get away from this idea of red or blue, right or left, and find ourselves united for the things that we know is right. Because one side tells us one thing, and we're like, oh yeah, we have to get them in, and they get in, and they just bow to the corporate interests. The other side does the same thing. Some do it right in our face, and some do it behind closed doors. But either way, who's getting screwed? We are. All the people are getting screwed, and especially the future generations. So I think that's the impetus of this painting, is to talk about the earth, to talk about how important it is that we actually stand up and fight. And remember, we hold the shovel, we the people. The Willisville Mountain Project, I don't really have time too much to get into all of this. I'll just quickly say that we organized an exhibit. We asked for artists to submit because a mining company was going to quarry the Willisville Mountain, and we didn't want that to happen. So we organized this exhibit, and we had enough pressure to stop the mining company, which was Inco, now called Vale, and they agreed to give up their aggregate license for the mountain. So we saved a mountain with art, and I just want to share that. Walking with Our Sisters, it was a massive undertaking involving thousands upon thousands of volunteers who made moccasin tops intentionally not sewn into moccasins to represent the unfinished lives of missing and murdered Indigenous women. In Canada, there are thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women, in the United States as well, and in Mexico. And I want to just say that this is an ongoing epidemic in our communities, and we need to continue to raise awareness about it. I'll share some of the vamps that were made. So this person named Tanya G. Brooks. The one down in the bottom right, Hello, my name is Who Cares, is a really powerful piece. The one on the top right is of a sweat lodge, so showing every single pair. I should just go back. There were over 2,000 pairs that were submitted. I put the call out on Facebook, and I got buckets and buckets of mail sent of people that just put their heart and soul into it. And we traveled it for 10 years to 30 different locations, going into gallery spaces and community halls and whoever would host us. And we made it community driven. And we insisted that people take their hats off at the door when they come in to volunteer. Like, in other words, if you're going to be part of the organizing committee, if you're also the CEO of the institution, you're no longer the CEO. You're just a person sitting at the table. If no politicians got their chance to say anything at the openings, no dignitaries, nothing like that. It was purely ceremony run by local Indigenous people wherever we went. And we even changed some of the fire codes and buildings to accommodate all the smudging and the smoking of sacred tobacco and all those things that had to happen. And it was just a really powerful time. And it ran for 10 years, like I said, and most of the vamps went back, and what didn't go back were offered in ceremony to a sacred fire. And this is again back to the idea of offerings. These beautiful things, the ones that I made, I also placed on the fire with a happy heart. The ones in the middle there with the chair were ones that brought me to tears when they arrived. It says something like, I can't see it from here because I just can't see that, but I don't know if you can. Yeah, it says basically that the mother puts the plate on the table, waiting for the return of her daughter. And that involved a lot of ceremony, a lot of being by the water again. And you can see how being in community is necessary for understanding how to go forward. This is Nimkiashbekong is the language camp that we started building. We started fundraising, did it all without any government funding, which I'm very proud of. We just fundraised. We did it with a lot of people's help. We didn't do it ourselves, that's for sure. But we didn't apply for any government funding, and we started building this camp. And it's a place where we now have running water, and people live there. Some people live there, a few people. And we do language revitalization and land-based practices, including arts practices, some contemporary arts, but lots of traditional arts. We've tanned hides. We've done all this stuff. And yeah, so I'm almost done. I have, I think, 3 slides left. This painting is one of my most recent, and it comes with a poem. So I'm going to read the poem. Okay, let's make sure I got the right one. I've never met your ocean, but I know our lakes. And I imagine the love that I have for my lake is the same as you have for your ocean. I imagine you love the way the sun warms your face as you hear the water on the shores, the way I also love the sun. I haven't heard the sound of your child's laughter, but I know the way I feel when I hear mine. And I know your love is as deep as mine for all of these things. I imagine how the birds will return to the branches of your olive trees again, the way the birds return here after winter on our trees, and bring us hope for abundant gardens, baskets of fruit, and the sound of people having casual conversations. Glorious conversations of nothing, chatter of nothing, because there is peace, because the war is over, because the walls have come down, because the people have been liberated, and because the bombs have stopped. Cease fire. For God's sakes, cease fire now. I'm going to skip that one. Okay. This one is called This Painting is a Mirror. We're at the second last slide. Okay, this is called This Painting is a Mirror. This painting is a mirror. Take a look at how I see you, each and every one of you. It reflects back every time you helped someone. It reflects back those moments when you were kind, when you were gentle, when you were generous. Every selfless act, every seed you planted, every plant you watered or spoke to, every animal you helped, every good deed. It reflects back every time you were compassionate and cared for anything in this world. It reflects back the beauty of your spirit. This painting is a mirror, and this is how I see you. And this is the last painting. It's a really small one. It's only like 12 inches by 18 inches. But I'm thinking of doing a giant one, to tell you the truth. It's called Before the Buffalo Chip. You know, because we, like, yes, the world. Oh my God, the world. But boy, do we ever need laughter, and we need joy. And we need to be able to balance these things in our life, because we can't just always be heavy, because then what's the point? So anyway, with that, I'm going to leave this slide up as the final one. And I thank you so very much.
I said to Christi, wow. I know it's the end of our lecture, but I would just challenge you all to think about this as a beginning, and a beginning to think differently about the world around us and that delicate balance between plants, animals, and humans. So thank you for leaving us with that gift, Christi, and enjoy the rest of your experience here at MIA and in the Twin City area. And thank you all for coming.